Okay, hello everyone, Shalom from Be'er Sheva. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan from the IDF, and we are live on Twitter in Be'er Sheva. The reason we're here is a very severe one. I'm standing just outside a house, a civilian residence, normal house in Be'er Sheva, in an undisclosed part of Be'er Sheva, where, as you can see behind me, something very significant happened. At around 3:30 a.m. this morning, 3:30 in the night, this house was struck directly by a rocket that was fired from Gaza by terrorist organizations that fired a mid-range rockets with a lot of explosives in its warhead at this civilian building. Now, if you come closer a bit, you can see exactly what happened and the impact. You can see the destruction here, the amount of rubble. This house was totally destroyed and may not be tenable again. You can see the point of impact just above. That is where the Grad rocket from Gaza, fired by Gaza terrorists, impacted. You can see what happened on the roof of the first floor, between the first and the second floor, and we are now standing in front of the living room and bedroom of this family. Now, who was in this house? The people who live here, a normal Israeli family at the time of impact, 3:30 a.m. There were 4 people here, a mother and her 3 children, one of which is a very young infant. Now, the mother obviously was very clever, very sharp, and heard the sirens, the alarms going on, which is part of the standard warning systems that we have in Israel to allow our civilians enough time to run for shelter. And what this mother did was to quickly take her kids, gather them up, and to run to the shelter room that which exists in each house in Israel. You can see it immediately behind me inside the house. That's a little room straight ahead, and that is what really saved the lives of these 4 Israeli civilians. The quick response of the mother and the fact that the house is equipped with a standard bomb shelter, which we have in all of our homes in Israel. Now, why did this happen? Hamas is the terrorist organization that rules the Gaza Strip. They have been ruling it for 11 years, and they have brought the Gaza Strip with its 2 million approximately residents to the verge of catastrophe. They're seeking ways to alleviate the pressure from themselves, and they are using the Palestinian population in order to do so. We are now 7 months into a period where during 7 months, each Friday, there are violent attacks done by rioters from Gaza trying to get into Israel using violence, throwing hand grenades, using IEDs, trying to cut or blow up the fence in order to get into Israel and to attack Israeli soldiers or civilians. You may have heard about it in the news, and sometimes it's not reflected. Reality isn't reflected as it's happening on the ground. But what's important to keep in mind here is that Israel is defending itself against attacks on the ground, underground, and from the air by Hamas and other terrorist organizations. Now, this house here, again, I'll repeat, was struck by a Grad rocket, fired from the Gaza Strip towards Israeli civilians. A blatant act of aggression, an attempt to kill Israeli civilians. Unfortunately, the family here of 4, including an infant, a very young child, were saved thanks to the quick response of the mother and, of course, the fact that she heard the sirens and ran for shelter. Now, what did the IDF do in response? We responded with attacking military targets, approximately 20 military targets all over the Gaza Strip, from the northern part of the Gaza Strip to the southern part of the Gaza Strip. We attacked another terror tunnel that was being dug by Hamas in order to get into Israel. We attacked and destroyed that. We attacked weapons manufacturing facilities. We attacked other underground infrastructure shafts, or basically access points to other underground infrastructure. We even attacked a tunnel which was being dug that connected between land and sea for Hamas terrorists to be able to go from Gaza into the sea and then attack Israel from the sea as well. And we attacked a few other facilities that support the construction of terror tunnels. So all of that has happened in the last hours, from the rocket that was fired at this Israeli house, which eventually led to the destruction that you can see around us here, and afterwards the Israeli response. The current situation is that we, the IDF, hold Hamas responsible for everything that happens from the Gaza Strip against Israel. And we, of course, are ready to respond to that and to continue to defend Israeli civilians, whether it is on the ground against the daily and weekly attacks along the technical fence that Hamas organizes and funds, whether it is against terror tunnels that Hamas continues to dig, we continue to detect and destroy, and whether it is against attacks against our civilians similar to this one. And we strongly urge Hamas not to test our resolve and not to further deteriorate the situation, which will only come at a severe price for Hamas. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more news. I'll do a short recap of the events here. We're standing in Be'er Sheva at a civilian house which was struck by a rocket fired from Gaza at 3:30 a.m. This house behind me is a home, and at the time there were 4 Israeli civilians here, a mother and her 3 children, including an infant. Now, thanks to the alarms that sounded, the mother responded very quickly. So we've heard, according to media reports, she responded very quickly and immediately took her children, ran into the shelter, and that is what effectively saved her and her family against the obvious result of the rocket that was fired. As you can see here behind me, significant damage to the house. You can see the destruction and rubble. We are just hours from the event itself. Another attack by Hamas militants and terrorists from Gaza, firing missiles at Israeli civilians. Of course, the IDF has responded with a very measured yet powerful response, striking 20 military targets inside Gaza of different types. And we stand ready to continue to defend underground, on ground, and in the air against any type of Hamas aggression. Thank you for watching. As you can see, that's a close-up of the house, of the damage caused by the Grad rocket fired. And you can see to your right the room, the safe room, which is standard in all homes in Israel by law, because we know that our civilians are many times targeted by different terrorist organizations. Each home has that kind of safe room, and that is effectively what saved the family here. The fast response of the mother, who at 3:30 a.m. took her kids and ran to the bomb shelter, and the fact that that bomb shelter exists.